Hello, I'm Kristen Oaks-White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. My partner, Avery Davidson, has the week off. According to the National Weather Service, areas in central and northeast Louisiana saw as much as 10 inches of rain over the first half of September. For soybean farmers who've yet to harvest, that was an unwelcome sight as Hurricane Francine made her way through the state. This week, TWILA's Karl Wiggers takes us to Madison Parish to show us how some of those soybeans and their owners are moving forward.
In Madison Parish, Adam Johnson is kicking up the dust harvesting these soybeans. Back at the truck, his cousin Brandon is getting a load ready to head to the elevator. Unfortunately, these beans are damaged, which means dollars coming out of his pocket.
We went into this one knowing that things didn't look great.
In a time where profits are short in agriculture, Johnson put a lot of his chips, or seed, into soybeans.
We tried to go largely with soybeans, felt like we could grow that with the least amount of inputs and be the cheapest crop we could grow. But even still, knowing that we had to have a record crop, the best crop we'd ever had, even with that strategy, to make ends meet this year.
Not only did Johnson need to plant a lot of soybeans in the spring, he also needed to harvest a record crop this year.
There was no other numbers that would work except for a record crop. I mean, it had to be 8 to 10 bushels better than I've ever made.
Louisiana Farm Bureau Commodity and Public Policy Director Andy Brown says damage in soybeans has become more and more common for Louisiana farmers. While it goes with the nature of farming on the Gulf Coast, Brown says the safety net programs these farmers depend on simply do not work for farmers in the South.
There's risk involved in farming every which way you look, but that's why we have products like crop insurance that are supposed to be there to help mitigate those risks. These farmers are having to invest in those risk management tools. Their banker tells them they need it, but unfortunately in the Mid-South, our risks and our needs when it comes to quality loss are not covered at all. And so that leaves a really bad taste in a farmer's mouth and dollars out of their pocket that they had to spend on a product that doesn't cover what they need it to cover.
With market prices already low, Johnson says dockage for damage is taking dollars off of his balance sheet with every trip from the field.
I took off a load yesterday. The last one I took off was a 10% damage, and that's a $1.35 a bushel at 10%, and it just goes skyrockets from there if it goes up. That's just the last one I have on my mind.
Protecting the farmers and ranchers in Louisiana and helping them continue to put food on our table is at the heart of Louisiana Farm Bureau. That's why Brown and many others at Farm Bureau are working hard to push for a new farm bill now.
We're highly focused on it. We got a lot of intelligent farmers at the table that are looking to find solutions, but we need folks to continue to voice that they're unprotected and they need something, whether through Congress or through USDA or both, to come together and not just put this on the backs of agriculture.
Andy Brown says while this year's soybean damage is not on the same level of disaster as 2022's heavy rains, the lack of a useful safety net for those farmers is. That's why farmers and the entire ag industry is calling for an updated farm bill now. And Kristen, I know this hits very close to home for you, these types of stories, and it does for me as well, but this is not a 2024 issue and not a 2022 issue. This has been 3 years now in a row. We had the heavy rains in 22, drought last year, this year, and all of this is with tough market prices too. I mean, I know y'all have felt that at home.
That's what I was about to say, is it's even if you didn't have a disaster situation, the market prices enough are cause for concern, and then plus you've got higher interest rates, you've got higher equipment costs, fertilizer costs, so everything is just adding up for a perfect storm, and a lot of these farmers are not going to be able to continue another year if it's like this.
Yeah, and that's one thing Brandon mentioned in this interview was, you know, at the beginning of this year, in February, and even last November, they knew that this year they would have to have the best crop they've ever grown by 10 bushels, and that's a lot to do, and even still, that's to make it to break even. And it's just, it's wild to be doing this, and for these folks to be doing this day in, day out so that we can have food on our tables it's pretty admirable.
It's a tough time to be a farm family.
For sure.
But Karl Wiggers, great story. Thanks so much.